Kumar. I'm the chair of the MLA Advocacy and Legislative Committee this year. I'm also the director of the Ferndale Area District Library in Ferndale. I do want to just welcome everybody today and thank you for participating. Advocacy Day is kind of our one big day where we really bring attention to the library as an institution. In non-COVID times, we could all gather down in Lansing together with t-shirts and everybody would see us and it would be a fun day, but we're doing it virtual this year. And I'm hoping this is going to actually be helpful. We'll be able to see more legislators and be able to really, just have a presence. Advocacy Day is about storytelling, getting them to know us, getting them comfortable with us, and for us to put some faces with names and just really make that connection with our legislators. This day is hosted by 3 different organizations, so I'm going to have each of the presidents of our participating organizations say a couple words to welcome you today. We're going to start with MLA President Jennifer Dean.
Thank you, Jenny. Let me get my notes up here. So good morning, all. I'm Dean Dean. I'm Dr. Jennifer Dean. I'm Dean of the Libraries and Instructional Technology at University of Detroit Mercy. And it's my honor and privilege to be the 2020-2021 president of MLA, also known as the Michigan Library Association. And I want to welcome everyone and say that our MLA mission means as much now as it ever did. MLA leads the advancement of all libraries through advocacy, education, and engagement. We serve the people who work in and with our libraries and the communities our libraries serve. Our vision is meaningful. MLA strives to be an indispensable resource and valued leader, partner, and advocate for Michigan's libraries. We all know it's been a year like no other. COVID has challenged us, required us to rethink what it means to provide essential services. But through it all, we've kept our focus on our communities and our commitment to justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Above all, your library is a place where you belong. MLA's advocacy and educational events have engaged more people than ever before this year, during this time, with weekly coffee hours and a new focus on webinars and online meetings. Thanks to our legislators, we've secured new funding and support. And we've pivoted all of our programming to a virtual platform, including our first ever virtual conference. We have an incredible MLA staff and we're 1,700 members strong. We're stronger together. And part of being stronger together is that partnership that Jenny mentioned, the organizations here in Michigan that share our focus on libraries, library workers, and the library community that we all serve. MLA is especially proud to partner with the Michigan Association for Media and Education, MAME, the Michigan Academic Library Association, MIALA. And I'm really grateful to my colleagues today who've joined us here today. So thank you, everyone, and I'm looking forward to a great day.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Cynthia Simpson from MIALA. Oh, you're muted.
All these months in, still working out the bugs. So good morning, everybody. Sorry about that. Welcome to Michigan Libraries Advocacy Day. I'm grateful for your time and support today as we highlight ways in which we can assist our Michigan libraries in building stronger Michigan communities and informed information consumers. I'm Cynthia Simpson. I'm the Director of Library Services at Madonna University in Livonia, located in southeastern Michigan. And I'm also very honored to be this year's chair for MIALA, the Michigan Academic Library Association, which was founded in 2015. MIALA serves academic libraries, including those at community, public, and private colleges and universities, their librarians and library staff, and library students who are focused on working in higher education. We have approximately 400 members from across 70 institutions. We are a chapter of the Association of College and Research Libraries, or ACRL, which is a division of the American Library Association. And as an ACRL chapter, we believe in academic and research libraries and librarians, and that they are essential to a thriving global community for learners and scholars. Our mission at MIALA is to provide opportunities for professional development, leadership, and committee services, and we promote value and the contribution of academic libraries through collaboration with state and national associations. Even in a pandemic, we've had a very busy year. We've had a lot of programming that have revolved around IDEA initiatives, so inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. And we've had our interest groups with diverse programming and meetups that they've offered on such subjects as distance and online learning, health services, and open education resources. It's been a pretty exciting time. Ray Bradbury once asked, without libraries, what have we? And he answered that we have no past and no future. So on behalf of Myala, I sincerely thank you for your participation today.
Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Shannon Torres from Maine.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. I am Shannon Torres and the current president of the Michigan Association for Media and Education. I'm honored also to be here with our library partners, Michigan Library Association and Myala. School libraries are so much more than books. They are a place of discovery, exploration, a place of creating and making, place where students and staff are greeted by name and are encouraged to wonder, discover, dream what's possible. A place to connect with people, ideas, and information, in a place where everyone is welcome. The duties of a certified school librarian impact student success by providing feedback and assessment on curriculum, content, and literacy levels, encouraging students to read for enjoyment, which is the greatest predictor of lifelong learning. Additionally, certified school librarians lead the charge in preparing all students to reach their highest potential in college or in career readiness. We cover topics with information literacy and digital citizenship, preparing our students for the world that they're going into. But sadly, only 8% of our schools in Michigan have a school library or certified school librarian. But why does it matter? It matters because our students deserve more. So we're hoping that throughout this Advocacy Day, we can actually get more support for school librarians and making sure that there's equitable access to resources, support, and opportunities for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a guest to help welcome you today. He was one of our legislative award winners last year. He advocated for additional state aid for libraries and is securing us an additional $1 million last year. I'd like to introduce from the 37th State Senate District, Senator Wayne Schmidt. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Jay. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me. It's certainly my pleasure to welcome everyone to the 2021 Advocacy Day for Michigan Library Association. And again, I'm Senator Wayne Schmidt. I'm from the 37th Senate District. And for those of you that don't get up north that much, it's all of Grand Traverse, Antrim, Charlevoix, Emmett, Sheboygan, across the bridge, Mackinac, Chippewa, and Lewis counties. And so, I'm very proud to work with the Michigan Library Association, an organization that has a proven track record of successfully educating and advocating for the advancement of Michigan libraries. We know what an integral part they are in our community, and that they are the gateway to culture and knowledge. And anybody that knows that libraries are far, far more than just books. I just know, just down the street from my house, all the great services they offer, and that they're a community center, and they promote services and programs and create innovation, and, well, quite frankly, just bring, as I said earlier, bring the community together. And like the rest of our country, libraries in Michigan were directly affected by COVID. The libraries, as you've heard from our earlier speakers, have stepped up and continued to meet the needs of Michigan residents, students, everybody, by being creative, by implementing curbside service and doing ebook content and online activities, just like your Advocacy Day. And I've spent a lot of time in libraries over my life. I was fortunate growing up in Traverse City to have the library on 6th Street. Then when I moved over to Washington Street, funny, they built a new library over there. So it's been good for me and my 2 boys and my wife. And it's certainly been a pleasure the last 13 years serving and trying to promote libraries. And so with that, I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done, the libraries that have supported me in Traverse City, Petoskey, all the way up to Quamanon. Really appreciate the support. It's an honor to welcome you here and look forward to meeting with some of your members later today.
Thank you, Senator Smith. We really appreciate your continued support for libraries. Thank you for being here today. So I'm going to talk a little bit briefly just about how the day is going to work today before I turn it over to our lobbyists to talk more about advocacy. GCSI is the lobbying firm that MLA uses, and Bob DeVries is our lobbyist. GCSI is our eyes and ears in the Capitol. They're the ones that make sure they're telling all the legislators what our issues are, but they're also a resource for legislators too, for them when they have questions, when they have concerns, when they just want to make connections in their district. The lobbyist is really the person that they come to as their point person. Advocacy is a long-term effort. It's not a one-day goal. Today, we're going to be here. We're going to be able to meet all day with our local legislators. And if we're not, we can, make sure you're reaching out, calling, sending emails. But advocacy is the long game. We need to be building relationships all the time. And the idea is that someday we are going to have an ask of something we need to come for help. And it's important to already have that relationship in place. Bob DeVries does this for us every day in Lansing. He is able to take all of our issues and concerns and meet with legislators. He's also able to bring back to us things that we need to know and what's coming up, so that there's, so we're not taken by surprise by things. Things that happen in Lansing can affect all of our funding. They can affect the laws that we operate under. So it's really important that we stay engaged as we go through. So I want to turn it over now to Bob DeVries, and just know that we really appreciate all the work you do for MLA.
Well, thank you, Jenny, and I'm excited to spend a couple of minutes this morning helping kick things off. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment and run through just some advocacy basics, because hopefully each and every one of you will have an opportunity or two today to meet with your legislator and to advocate on behalf of the Michigan Library Association. So hopefully you can see what's going on here. But as Jenny mentioned, my name is Bob DeVries. I'm a lobbyist with GCSI, Governmental Consultant Services Incorporated. We're one of the large lobbying firms here in Lansing. And we've been happy to be able to work with the Michigan Library Association for several years. As an advocacy professional, it's difficult to kind of try to break down what I do on a daily basis. But this is kind of my attempt to give you just an advocacy 101. Some of the important things to remember as you're talking today. I think there's 4 basic requirements to be an effective advocate. You got to be able to establish a relationship. You know, understand the legislative process and manage your expectations. You need to be a subject matter expert, and you need to be able to show your passion for what you're advocating for. So we can look at that a little bit clearer here. But to establish a relationship, it's a lot easier than you might think. You know, your local legislator wants to get to know you as a member of MLA. You know, you're connected to a library, and libraries are nothing if not, a center of the community. And so you're a leader in your community, whether you think you are or not, and your legislator wants to get to know you. And so there's a lot of ways to do that. You could do it through politics. If you're a passionate Republican or a passionate Democrat, and you want to get involved in the campaign world, campaigns are always looking for volunteers. It's a great way to get to know people involved in this process by volunteering. If you're not, and that's fine too, get involved in other ways. Most legislators hold regular office hour meetings. They hold regular town hall meetings. And in fact, libraries would be a great place to have a lot of these events. And so attend one and then invite them to have the next one at the library. In local politics in Michigan here, most legislators don't have what's called a district office. They don't have the budget to establish an office outside of Lansing. And so they hold their office hours where their constituents can come and meet with them. Local coffee shops or town, city halls, township halls, or libraries. And so you have to seek them out. Their social media is typically the best place to find when and where they're doing these things. And just go introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about what you do and hear about what they're up to. During the pandemic, some of this has been more challenging, pardon me, but a lot of legislators are innovating because contact with their constituents is still an important part of what they do. And so I've just put two examples up here on the screen. Representative Graham Filler on the left of the screen here is a Republican representative from Clinton County. And he's regularly holding these Facebook Live office hours where he just gets on video and you can ask him any question you want, and does it once or twice a week. On the right side, Senator Mallory McMorrow is a Democratic senator from southern Oakland County in the Troy area. And she does a very similar thing, on a weekly basis where anybody can just hop on and chat. There are many more. It's not just these two, but these were two good examples of one way you can still connect even when not everybody's meeting in person yet. Understanding the process is one of the, I think, one of the highest barriers to becoming an effective advocate. And it's one of the reasons why I'm excited to work with grassroots organizations like the Michigan Library Association, is because that's kind of what my job is. And so today, you don't need to understand the process perfectly as we're talking to legislators and as you're talking about MLA and the importance of libraries. But what you should know is that the legislative process is complicated. I'm sure you've all heard the Schoolhouse Rock song. That is how it goes, except the Schoolhouse Rock song is about 2 minutes long, and often it can take years to get a difficult issue done in Lansing. The process is complicated. There's typically interest groups on all sides, and legislators want to hear from all sides because they want to make an informed decision for the most part. One of the easiest ways for you to get educated on the process is just to spend some time paying attention. Both the House and the Senate have very accessible websites with videos from committee hearings, videos from House session and Senate session available. All of them are live streamed so you can watch, but they also have an archive of all the old stuff. And so just watching and learning is an easy way. And then if you get specific questions, feel free to send me an email or talk to Debbie or anyone else at MLA. It's our job to help you guys understand the process. Expectations is kind of along the same track. If you understand the process, that manages your expectations. I think an ineffective advocate sometimes believes that if a legislator says they agree with me, then something is going to be done about it within a week or 2 weeks. When in fact, there's 148 legislators. In the House, you need 56 votes to get something passed. In the Senate, you need 20 votes. And then you also need the governor to also agree. And so it's not about just getting one passionate legislator on your side. That's where it starts, but there's much to do after that. And so managing your expectations about the process and about how long things take, and frankly, just about the power and influence that one legislator can have is important because while they are influential, typically, they can't do it alone. And so we need to help them then build a coalition to do whatever we're asking them to do. Be a subject matter expert is very important. Legislators have to deal with literally every issue that comes before the legislature, but they're typically only able to become an expert in their small area that they're assigned to. And so, Senator Schmidt, who we just heard from, chairs the education budget. So he manages things related to K-12 funding, which includes the Department of Education and funding for libraries from the state. But that's where his expertise lays. That doesn't mean he doesn't know a lot about a lot of other things, but he also needs to rely on experts to help educate him about things that are outside of his specific field of expertise. And so that's going to be the case regarding libraries for most legislators. Most legislators are going to be familiar with their local library. They're obviously going to have been in a library. They probably have kids that like the library or grandkids that like the library, but that's probably as far as their knowledge goes. And so it's your job to then be that subject matter expert. And so once you've established that relationship, whether it's today is the first part of it, or whether you know them from before, or whether that's something that you will do continuing on from here by attending town hall meetings and these virtual coffee hours and things like that. Make sure you're their go-to person when there's a library issue. The thing that makes my job easiest and Debbie's job easiest at MLA is when we have people that can contact their legislators directly and have that personal relationship. And so make sure that they understand that they need to have a library expert, because libraries are complicated and you want to be that person. And then lastly, show your passion. You know, people should be excited about libraries, but it's probably not the first and foremost thing on everybody's mind. And so a passionate advocate is an effective advocate. Without passion, it's hard for someone to take seriously what we're asking for or what we're telling them. They've got a lot of different meetings every day, you know, probably a dozen different meetings like we're going to have with our legislators, telling them about things, asking them for things, asking them for help, advocating for things. And so, you know, if we're the non-passionate advocate, we're going to be down at the bottom of the list of things they remember and things that make an impression. And so establish that relationship, be your expert, show some passion here, and then maintain that relationship moving forward. Let them know about what's up at the library, new programs, technologies, facilities, etc. And so that is the very basics of what it takes to become an effective advocate. And today in your meetings with legislators, you're not going to have a ton of time. We've scheduled them for about a half an hour a piece, but getting in and getting out early is always encouraged. We don't need to fill all 30 minutes that are scheduled. If you can try to make sure to wrap up a little early, legislators always appreciate that. They often have 30-minute meetings lined up back to back to back to back. And so giving them a couple of minutes to go use the restroom or grab a cup of coffee in between is something that they always appreciate. And so I believe you've all have the talking points, and I'm going to be around for a little while on the Zoom here. If you have any questions about just advocacy in general, feel free to shoot me a message in the chat. Happy to answer your questions. And with that, I will kick it back to Jenny.
Thank you, Bob. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce our keynote speaker today. He was a winner of our legislative awards this past year, and he has been a major advocate for libraries at the national level. He's introduced several types of legislation to help support libraries, and has really just helped getting the word out for us. I would like to introduce U.S. Representative Andy Levin. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's so great to be with you. This is really exciting for me to get to talk to you about something that I'm really passionate about, which is libraries, all kinds of libraries, the local public library, college libraries, school libraries, everything. And this last year, I've really had a great time getting deeply involved in the work that libraries do for our communities, and learning how best to advocate for libraries in Congress myself. That work's led me to help libraries secure $200 million through the Institute of Library Services and the American Rescue Plan, and become the lead sponsor of the Build America's Libraries Act in the US House of Representatives, which would create a $5 billion fund for critical library infrastructure updates. And guess what? This bill now has over 100 co-sponsors in the House. I love my role of being an advocate for our libraries, but I want you to really understand how I got here. I want to tell you a little story, because had it not been for the wonderful library advocates and librarians in my own community and in Michigan, I would absolutely not be doing this. I wouldn't be fighting for libraries and having whatever success I've had as a member of Congress. Many months ago, before COVID, my congressional staffer, Courtney Laudick, and I took a meeting like Bob just described with our state librarian and the American Library Association to discuss the annual appropriations request for library funding for the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Except our meetings are often only 15 minutes, not half an hour like in Lansing. But anyway, believe it or not, that one meeting really sparked my team's involvement in our library work. A month later, the pandemic was upon us, and Courtney and I were on the phone discussing effective ways to support our communities. And we thought about libraries. That one conversation led to my office leading a letter to House leadership in support of emergency funding for libraries so they could continue serving our communities during the pandemic. And that in turn led to the introduction of the Library Stabilization Fund Act, which uplifted the importance of libraries at the national level. Now, this happened because of what great advocates folks were in meetings, and also because of my personal experiences. I used to run a state workforce system, Michigan state workforce system. I'm the only member of the House or Senate who has that personal experience. So I am really clear about some of the roles libraries play in our communities beyond lending books, what people think about traditionally. Libraries really are the cornerstones of our communities, empowering people of all ages, from kids to seniors, to explore the world through books, through ebooks, through videos, to gain access to the internet or remote learning resources during a pandemic, to strengthen their job prospects through access to job training, which I worked on personally for years as Michigan's chief workforce officer, and even to help people heal by providing telehealth resources, which we have, some would say, long overdue, but anyway, during the pandemic, we have greatly expanded telehealth resources, thank God, and libraries have been at the center of that. While people always need libraries, they need them even more during times of economic uncertainty and health crises. From day one of the pandemic, even as many libraries had to shut their doors to keep staff and patrons safe, our libraries still work tirelessly to bolster their services and innovate quickly to meet the needs of their communities. All across Michigan, libraries help keep many of our communities afloat. They remain safe, trustworthy, important institutions for Americans to seek information and help. Libraries have helped uplift our communities with all kinds of support, everything from helping veterans apply for state financial assistance to helping seniors without computers secure COVID vaccines. These institutions, which may not seem large in the eyes of most people in the public, do all this incredible and mighty work with, as you know, small budgets, because you have outsized innovative ideas and a lot of hustle. You really have an amazing story to tell. Of course, all of us here, we know, those of us on this Zoom, all about libraries. And that's part of the reason that we're here. We believe in the power of libraries and that they truly represent an American ideal. But others don't know this. And so if we don't tell the story, it won't be told. For far too long, we've allowed library budgets across the government, local government, state government, and the federal government to be underfunded. Many times, legislators at all levels, from city councils to Congress, have used education and library funding cuts as piggy banks to cover other things. We simply cannot allow those cuts to continue unabated, especially as we deal with one of the worst public health and economic crises in the history of our country. Organizers, advocates, and activists like yourselves have worked for a decade to open the current legislative window we have in Congress, and at the state and local levels too. Today, we have an incredible opportunity to continue that work as we organize and rally in support of our libraries, of library workers, and all the communities that depend on them. As a former union organizer, I understand how each of us can feel intimidated or scared when we try to stand up for what we believe in, whether that's advocating for your rights at work to your boss or demanding your needs in front of your elected officials, even on Zoom. This is especially true when you may feel like you're alone in your work, that you're just one little person who can't make much change on your own. But that's why we're here today together. We have powers in numbers. Just imagine all of you connecting with the whole Michigan legislature or much of it in a day. When we advocate and organize collectively, we're not just one little person. We're an unstoppable force that demands to be heard. We may be doing things differently because of Zoom as we fight to keep our community safe. And I yearn for the day, like we all do, when we can do this again face to face in a shared space. But we're here. We're united by a shared passion, a shared cause, and a call to action to protect the future of our libraries. Remember, we're all in this together. And I want to challenge you to step out of your comfort zone today, maybe stray a wee bit from the talking points that you're being given in order to share personal stories about how libraries have made a huge impact on you and on your family. And others have mentioned the importance of storytelling. It's the experiences and stories that people share that impact us. And it's what we, as members of Congress, as senators like Senator Schmidt, it's what we take away from these meetings. I have to do so many of these meetings, but when I go to the floor of the Congress and talk to my colleagues, what I talk about is the personal stories or the policy related stories that people have shared that really resonate with me. And that's what circulates amongst the Michigan State Senate, the Michigan House of Representatives, the US House or the US Senate. So let me tell you, when I was growing up in Berkeley, Michigan, our public library was a short walk from our house. And my mom would take my sisters and me up there, often every week, and we would check out books. My parents, like most, had lots of limits and lots of rules. But my mom didn't have any rules at the library besides behaving ourselves. We could check out as many books as we wanted. If the Berkeley Public Library had a limit, which it probably did, I didn't know about it. I didn't, I could check out like 8 or 10 or I don't know how many books. And there was never any judgment about what we chose. I can remember struggling to carry my stash of freshly checked out books home along Edgewood Boulevard. But the stash might be about half as big as I was. And that's just the way Mary and I raised our 4 kids. The Bloomfield Township Public Library is central to our life. My son Saul is actually here. He has a job as a legislative aide for another member of Congress. And he's been living in New York during COVID. And so he hasn't gotten an apartment here yet. And he's staying with me right now because he's very involved in climate change legislation and it's Earth Week. So he came in person. And when he heard what I was doing this morning, he said, "Dad, you're just representing Mom. That's her issue." So bottom line, I just can't imagine passing a love of learning, the joy of exploring ideas, the discovery of cultures, or the duties of citizenship from one generation to the next without my free local public library. So there you have it. I'm so excited I got to share a little snippet of my own love of libraries with you all today. Share yours with Michigan senators and representatives, and you will surely succeed. Keep up the incredible work. Stay in touch with the folks you share a Zoom with today, just like Bob told you to, and continue to stand up with our libraries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Levin. We do have a little bit of time. Do you have enough time to stick around for a few minutes if anyone has any questions for you?
I can stay for a few minutes. To be honest with you, I'm playing hooky on the Democratic caucus meeting, which would be in person, but it's on Zoom. But, you know, I'd love to answer a few if people have any. Sure.
I'm trying to look over at the participants, see if anyone's got their hand up or if someone wants to unmute and jump in. We have a little bit of time. Anybody?
Don't be shy. And also, you don't just have to ask a question. You can give me, you know, some marching orders. I work for you.
I have a question.
You're literally my boss.
Do you anticipate a continued support for libraries in Michigan?
Well, you know, I do, but what I think is that there's going to be a scramble for funds. And, you know, there's a scramble when there's a scarcity of funds, and there's a little bit happier scramble when there's more funds, but it's still a scramble, right? And this $1.9 trillion package that we passed, the American Rescue Plan, has significant amounts of funding for not only the state government, but for every county, city, township, and village in Michigan, down to like in my district, you know, Franklin Village or Centerline, or, you know, the really small cities and townships and villages. And so you all can get in there and try to get some of that money in each of your communities and from the state, or from, like in my case, Macomb and Oakland counties. So I would really, we're already passing funds at the federal level. You know, we are pushing to have significant money for libraries in the what the president's calling the American Jobs Plan, right? The infrastructure plan, because, and that's what our bill would do. But, you know, sometimes it works better if you could tuck it in, obviously, to the president's plan, right? And it would create lots of great jobs, you know, union jobs, construction jobs. But so many of our libraries, like Berkeley, you know, it was built around when I was born. Most libraries are, you know, 40 years old or more. And so they really need help, expansion, you know, refurbishing, or, you know, revitalization in different forms. So I'm not a big expert on the state legislature, but I can tell you that there's, you know, we're really building momentum in Congress. And I just want to stress, and Senator Schmidt and I symbolize this can be a bipartisan issue. I mean, come on, what's more, you know, mom and apple pie and wave the flag than a library? It has no politics to it. I mean, people can get in and fuss over, you know, what books are in there. Let's stay away from that for a moment and just talk about celebrating who can go to college without the library, who can go to elementary school without the library, who wants to live in a town without a library. So I really encourage you to make it super bipartisan, visit every Republican and Democrat. And just like Bob said, what your goal should be is when that representative in Lansing says, oh, dang, are we going to fund library? Wait, what are we doing with these libraries? I got to call Jenny Marr. She was in my office last month, and she was nice. And plus, you know, that's the library that my, you know, nephew and niece go to. So that's what we need. And that's what you can accomplish today.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Does anybody else want to ask a question? I see there's a few in the chat, but there's so much in the chat, I kind of lost the thread of it. There was a question about school funding or school library funding, and whether or not that's a part of the legislation, or how you feel about that being included.
Yes, well, so I'm on the Education and Labor Committee in Washington in the House, and on the K-12 subcommittee. It has a fancier, more ridiculous name than that, but it's basically the K-12 subcommittee. And our overall committee chairman, Bobby Scott, is a real champion, thankfully, of school construction funding. And we have a major bill to rebuild America's schools. And it is absolutely part of the infrastructure plan as we will design it in the House. And I think there would be $150 billion for schools. Now, this is K-12. There's separate funding for universities. But so in terms of school libraries, in terms of public schools, we would, and their construction and growth and, fixing up their physical plant, we would see part of that as part of our school, infrastructure funding. And we are very, very strong on getting it into the president's plan, at least as it passes the House. And then we have to see what passes the Senate and sort of duke that out to make sure it stays in the final.
Representative Levin. Hi, I'm Kathy Lester. And about that, is there any way to specifically call out school libraries within that infrastructure plan for education? Because often what happens is the funding gets sent to education generally, and then school libraries are left out. And they, build a new football field and forget about the school library.
The gym and the pool, right? Well, let's talk about that. So I think Jenny, there's too many people on here for me to see if Courtney is on here, but let's follow up on that to see if we can include something in there. I don't think there is. And remember, you can imagine that the superintendents, the principals, even the teachers unions, I would say, sort of from all sides, they favor flexibility, right? There's this constant back and forth with, how much are you going to help us and how much are you going to boss us around? And I think, let me just say, from the point of view of a congressperson, I think that we should give a lot of flexibility. I believe in local education, in local control of education. The thing that's key is justice. And I'm not flexible about that. So I think Congress needs, in our funding, we need to really emphasize racial and economic justice, gender justice, making sure there's funding for English language learners, poor students, students with varying abilities, the ones who are more expensive to teach or who may need more resources. And making sure, obviously justice is not an area where our education system has always shown on a national basis. So I think, to be honest with you, we're less likely to boss around the, local schools and what they do. But I bet there's ways we could sort of, get something in there for libraries. So let's, specifically.
Thank you very much.
Congressman Levin, I know we have a really short time with you now, but I do want to say we have been working, the Michigan Library Association's been working with your office. We have a town hall coming up with you at the end of May. And we'll look forward to our school and our academic and our public libraries joining you for more conversation about all of the challenges that we face and hearing more about some of the things that are happening on a federal level. So stay tuned, everybody.
Thank you, Representative Ledva, for your generosity of your time today. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and answering a couple questions.
My pleasure. It's so fun. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Debbie. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. So I want to encourage everyone to continue to follow up with both your state and your federal legislators. Let them know what's going on. Like Representative Levis said, it's all about the stories they can take back with them. Some of you may have participated in that before, a call out for stories. So please continue to do that, because that's the thing that resonates with people. So continue to stay in touch and send that along to them, so that they have what they need to come to take with them to advocate for us. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about how our meetings are going to go today before we let you go. Some of you do have meetings at 9:30, so you'll want to make sure you jump off in time for that. Each of the meetings today, which GCSI arranged all of these for us today, so thank you so much for all their staff work they did to get us all paired up. The meetings, we allow 30 minutes for them, but really, like Bob said, we want to make it shorter. 20 to 25 seems to be kind of the golden range. We did a bunch of these with our incoming state representatives, and that seemed about the right time. In general, I would say, keep in mind, we're not changing anyone's minds today. We're not digging deep into, any of our issues today. Today is about connection. The call leaders will, get the meeting rolling. They'll talk, get the introductions done. They can, highlight our talking points, but what they really want to do is to have you make that connection with them and to set up a way to follow up. If you're able to do coffee hours or town halls yet at your library, that's great. If not, tell them that's something in the future. Maybe you can offer a virtual meeting. I'd also recommend you tell them you'll be following up with them later with more information. You can send them your newsletter. You can send them an email with updates. Make sure they have your contact information, because in the end, like Bob said, what we really want, what they need is when they're working on legislation or have a question, they're going to call who they know. And so you want to make sure that they know you, that they know that you're a resource for them, that you're a community leader that they can reach out to when they need help or questions. But then that way, when you have that relationship established, when you need something, it's not the first time you're calling them. You're like, oh, hey, we had this thing, and then talk to them about it. I keep in mind, they're all humans. And like they said, they have these meetings back to back all day. So what they're going to remember is, hey, this was my local library. I have that connection. My kids go there. They told me this great story. I want to make sure too that, that some of the meetings are going to be small. There might only be a few people on. You'll have a little bit more time to talk, but some of the meetings could have a lot of people on, and you might not have a chance for everyone to tell their story on there. Make sure you have your library name next to your name. One of the great benefits of having Zoom right now is that it's basically like a name tag that we can have. So they'll be able to see your name, see what library you're from. And even if you don't have a lot of time to talk with them, they're going to be absorbing that and making that connection. So make sure that you're labeled on the meeting so they know who you are. And like I said, you're only going to have 2 to 3 minutes to just talk. As librarians, we all know we could talk about the awesome things we do at our libraries for half an hour, and that still probably wouldn't be enough. Like I said, today is not a day for us to list all the cool things we do, because there's just too many things that we all do. So just keep it brief. If you want to tell a story that's based, kind of on our talking points, that would be great. But today it's all about making that connection and then follow up later with them and keep going. So each of the call leaders has the agenda. They're going to try to stick to it. Try to wrap it up in 20 to 25 minutes if you can, just to give them a break. And if some of you might have multiple meetings, so it'll give you a chance to reset and go to the next. I hope you've read the bios on your legislators before the meeting, because you can pick out not only what committees they're on, and it helps you know their interests, but they usually have some personal thing on there that you can maybe connect with. Maybe they like, they're interested in a hobby, and you're like, oh, we do a program like that at our library. So, just find some way to connect with them. In the end, I just want everyone to relax. You're not going to be graded on how well you do at these meetings. There's never a perfect meeting, because you never know what they're going to say, what their interest level is in. So I just hope everyone has fun with this. And we're people people, you know, we all love to talk and we all love to connect with people. Just pretend like they're a patron that's come into your library and you're just going to connect with them. So I don't want everyone to get too stressed about if this is the first time you've ever talked to a legislator. They're just people, and in the bottom line, what can we do for them and what can they do for us? You know, they just want to make that connection. Debbie, I don't know if you have anything you want to add, you know, to any of this, if I got everything on there. So does anyone have any general questions? We got a couple minutes before we have to jump off. Just make sure everyone's comfortable with their day. I will say, if you have any technical problems, Debbie did put contact numbers on all of our instructions, so that if you have to text, go through, you know, to jump on. Debbie, did you have something else you wanted to add? I see you unmuted.
No, just so everybody knows, we have 20 licenses for Zoom. So the meetings are back to back. So please, you know, allow for that extra time, but you need to sign off immediately after your event is over, and then jump into another. But people are jumping today, so we want to make sure that that people are out of a room before anybody comes in, and don't arrive too early, because you may be in a meeting where you with another legislator that you haven't signed up for. So just recognize that we're trying to keep this thing rolling, and I'm going to call out the MLA staff at this point, because they've been so integral to get the monster handled, which is the data, and the changes and the updates and our legislators' cancellations, and making sure that you know what meeting you're supposed to be in. So thank you to not only our co-hosts for Mayala and MAME, but to the MLA staff as well. So, but I hope you all have great meetings, and I'll turn it back over to Jenny.
There was one question about who the Zoom meeting hosts are.
There are no hosts. These are open meetings. You do not have to have a Zoom account to go into those meetings. So just go, and your call leader should be there with you. But we wanted to keep them as, I know that's probably not the best protocol, but it was the only way we knew how to share all of those Zoom credentials with you. So hop in and enjoy it, and hopefully everything works out well. But text us. There are Lisa, myself, and Elise have our cell phone numbers at the end of the email that has the overview on it. And if you can't make a meeting, or if you're having technical difficulties getting in, text us. We will get into those Zoom rooms and try to resolve any issues.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for participating today. And remember, today's just day one. You know, continue to do this throughout the year. I think as librarians, we're not always great about bragging about how great the work we're doing is. And this is the time to brag. So, you know, continue to send information out throughout the year, make those connections. When it's safe to do so, have them come to your library. If not, just find other ways to help them have them connect with you. So this is going to be a year-round thing that we should always do, you know, but today we start, and maybe next year we can do this in person with t-shirts, because we all miss that. So good luck, everybody. Have fun today. Enjoy it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, you know, throughout the day as you need anything. But good luck, everyone. And thanks for being here, and thanks for, you know, participating in this. So go team. All right. Bye. Enjoy your day.